aromatic adventure.
The seasons, they are changing. It's getting colder, more brisk. The colors are changing on the trees. Autumn is here, my friends. I am lying, and you know I'm lying because it is Memorial Day weekend. It's not even the summer. May 25th, 2018. Today marks another special day. The beginning, day number 1 of Yankee Candle's semi-annual sale. But what's a little bit more relevant to this video is the release of the 2018 fall preview candles. That's right. This is when they decide to give us a little sneak peek. So if you go into Yankee Candle right now, your local Yankee Candle or the website, you will be able to find 4 of the eventual 8 fragrances that are going to be available for autumn this year. The 4 that are available for now are right here. And these 2 are, I'm going to share them with you. They're not released yet, but I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. But you're probably asking why there's so many candles on this table. Not just so many candles, but why they're in different formats. Well, I've had all day today to take a very close look at all of these and cross-reference each fragrance with their counterpart. Large jar, small jar, even the melt cup. This way I could give you the most comprehensive, most concise and accurate sensory evaluation. But before we start, I'm gonna at least introduce you to the candles that are on the table. Scent number 1, we have a Poached PEAR Flambe. If you're not quite sure what flambe is, what that's all about, don't worry, wait till the evaluation, I'll explain it all to you, but I'm already excited with just this candle right here. So we have the sweet, decadent, baking spice, autumn-esque fragrances, but we also have some atmospheric candles. This one is a great example. Tranquil Mist. Take a look at that photo on there. That is incredible. Not only could this work beautifully for autumn and fall, but also late summer. August into early September. That's kind of cool because we don't have a lot of candles that work and fit into that very specific time of year. I always call that autumn phase 1. So candle number 3 out of the preview, we have Sun-Kissed Thistle. Now we had Sun-Kissed Apricot Rose for the spring, but this is Sun-Kissed Thistle. And if you're not sure what thistle is, a thistle is not a part of your vocabulary. And once again, we will be addressing that during the evaluation of that candle. And this is one I was probably anticipating the most, just based on the name, is Sugared Cinnamon Apple. Because we all know the success of sugared apple. It's a fan favorite. I've been wondering if this sugared cinnamon apple was somehow a fall or autumn twist of that fan favorite, that Yankee Candle classic. We're gonna have to wait to find out. Now, those are the ones that are a part of the preview, but in addition, check it out, a Luscious Pumpkin Trifle. Oh man, you gotta have that pumpkin candle in the lineup. And then we're also going to be talking about Autumn Pearl. 6 candles, a lot of talking to do. The other 2 that are going to be available that are not on the table, Enchanted Moon. How much does that make your imagination go hog wild? And then last is Blue Twilight Storm. Look, I am thrilled with everything that's on this table, but I am still anticipating those last 2, and as soon as I get my hands on them, you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna share them with you folks. So let's clear off this table and do this one candle at a time. And I'm gonna share with you my comprehensive thoughts, analysis, and my sensory evaluation. Are you ready? I've been ready all day. Let's do this. before that sun goes completely down. So first on the list, and to be honest, one that I am very excited to share, this one is going to go by the name of Poached Pear Flambe. Now, just so that we're all on the same page, if there's any confusion about this word flambe, flambe, or flamed in French, is a cooking procedure where you add spirits to a dish to create a kind of like a big ball of flame, a big combustion of flame. And in turn, what will happen is that flame, that heat will caramelize the sugars in the food, altering the flavor and making it super delicious. So if you've ever had Bananas Foster's before, created at the very famous Brennan's restaurant in New Orleans, you know what flambe is. Or if you've ever prepared coq au vin in a saute pan in the kitchen, you know what flambe is. Again, you're using that alcohol to create flame, to caramelize the sugars in the food, create an enzymatic browning to create those wonderful, nutty, robust flavors. Flambe. You have this skinned and poached pear sitting in a spirit. That could be cognac, it could be brandy, it could be rum, it could be an assortment of different things. And when that spirit is heated, it becomes volatile, right? So that little flame from that match, as soon as that touches that pear that's been poached in this spirit, it's going to, it's that big ball of fire, Jerry Lee Lewis style. So, can we continue? Let's do it. What does this candle smell like? Woo! Alright, so first thing coming through is Bartlett pear skin. You know how pear skins have that very fragrant, even somewhat floral aroma? That's what's coming through. But also, pear core. I'm not crazy, but think about it. Pear cores, you know it to be true. Even apple cores, the center of the fruit has a distinctly different aroma, and that's what I'm picking up on. That's not to say that I'm not smelling pear, like I'm just smelling core and the skin, but it's coming through a little less fresh to me. To me, this is more of an oxidized tree fruit. And what I mean by oxidized, all you have to think about is the filling of an apple pie. A fresh apple slice does not look like the apple slice that's in an apple pie. Why? Because the apple in the pie has had a chance to oxidize, altering the flavors to give it that extra delicious, highly intense flavor. And to me, that's what this is smelling like. But what's very distinct and what is really setting me off in a great direction is caramel covered apple. Oh my God, it's sending me right to autumn. It's sending me to Halloween. I feel like I'm outside at a haunted attraction or fair or festival, waiting online to get into something. Everyone's sipping on hot caramel apple cider, but I am eating caramel covered apple on a stick. It's warm and gooey, savory and salty, sweet on the outside and super fresh on the inside. That contrast of the savory caramel that's coming through with that pear, that tree fruit, is definitely creating that caramel covered apple. But that's not it. What's extra impressive is that what is the other part that makes a caramel covered apple? Caramel, apple, and the stick. That stick. And what do you do after you finish the apple, right? You suck on that stick. Come on. We all do it. We all know that flavor of sucking on that caramel apple stick. And there is a woodiness here. Specifically, kind of this bourbon barrel woodiness, which makes sense because we're going to be talking about booziness in just a little bit. What do you age a rum in? What do you age cognac in? And other spirits as well. Bourbon, not bourbon barrels, but oak barrels. So having that little sweet bourbon barrel action is giving it a little bit of spice. It's giving us a little bit of vanilla, but it's also creating that illusion of that caramel covered apple. And let me tell you, that's making me super excited. There is this bright and creamy lemon custard And let me be honest here, there is some booziness in this candle, and by some I mean a good amount. And it's coming through in several different forms. First thing I want to say is pure vanilla extract. Did you know that pure vanilla extract in the United States legally has to have a minimum of 35% alcohol by volume? That's a lot of alcohol in vanilla extract, but that is certainly true. That's why if you smell vanilla extract, it does smell kind of boozy, and that is what's going on, I find, in this candle. But that's not it. You definitely do have this cognac-like, brandy-like, boozy quality, but one specifically that I want to mention, schnapps, more specifically pear schnapps. And I'm not talking like peach schnapps where it's a liqueur that's really sweet. I'm talking about the hardcore stuff. I've had some homemade Romanian pear schnapps, and let me tell you, that stuff, well, it's hardcore. But when I take a sniff of this, it's bringing back some memories. And I've said the caramel 20,000 times already, but I can't help but just address it again because I smell this and I think about a caramel sauce drizzle on the top of a warm dessert. And I've mentioned the bourbon barrel, but I think it bears repeating, and I think there's a few more things that need to be said. This does smell woody. This has a significant oakiness to it. This smells like wood, and if you're like me, you're gonna love that added touch, but I can see a lot of people not digging that. So I think that is going to be the make or break in this candle for folks. But I think this is really well done. To me, it's kind of the Honeycrisp apple cider candle that we saw last year. This is kind of a rejuvenized version. It's, to me, more complex. It diverges from the stereotypical aromas that we associate with autumn. You get a little bit more dynamic. You know, there's only so many times you can recycle apple and pumpkin and baking spices. So this is taking autumn in a really fun new direction. Poached pear flambe. Really excited about this one. And I don't usually do this, but for the sake of this video, I said, hey, why not? I'm going to share Yankee Candle's descriptions and fragrance notes on these candles. So this is how Yankee Candle describes Poached pear flambe. Juicy pear, freshly peeled and ready to delight in a bath of caramel-colored brandy. Oh yeah, I like the way that's written. I do, and that's not sarcasm. Top notes of pear nectar, crystallized sugar. Mid notes of honey and caramel, and base notes of whipped vanilla and fruity musk. Fruity musk, I like that note. I think that is in reference to, if I had to guess, that pear skin quality that I was talking about. I would consider that a fruity musk. Would you? I don't know. Let me know in the description below. I could talk about these candles all day, all three of the very same scent, but for the sake of time, let's keep moving. Candle number 2. Let's do it. So we just dealt with a very sweet, savory autumn food treat candle. But now we're going to do something a little bit more atmospheric. This candle is going to take us outside. This one by Yankee Candle, entitled Tranquil Mist. And would you take a look at that label? Let's not just jump over that. How incredible is that? Very minimalistic, but certainly provokes some serious emotions, at least for me. What do you think lies beyond that mist? Well, there's only one true way to find out. We have to venture beyond that mist to discover the aromatics. So undeniably, the first thing that is coming through are the assortment of flowers. So let's talk about the florals. lilac, freesia, dried lavender, very clean flowers. But then we have really intense florals, things like gardenia. However, they're restrained, they're balanced, they're controlled. They're not going to be overbearing. This smells like a country laundry room, one of those beautiful pictures, spreads that we see in the magazine. Very romantic looking. It's soapy, it's sudsy, it has that clean floral smell to it. And let's address the fruitiness. This is different. This is very berry forward. Are you familiar with mulberry, elderberry, and gooseberry? You know, all three of those I think would be fair descriptors on this candle. It's a distinct berry smell that's very tart, and it does add some sweetness to this candle, but more importantly, really adds to the fruity side of this candle. And because it's so bright, I have to say that it's citrusy as well, and it's a little bit peppery, you know, a little bit sneezy, not like cracked black pepper. But you know, some florals, when you smell them, you get a little bit sneezy. It smells like white pepper. So that citrus component and that peppery component, I'm going to attribute those notes to the florals. And to finish things off, as a foundation, a nice, warm, sweet vanilla. This is a very interesting candle. It is well made, in my opinion. But once again, it's diverging from the stereotypical autumn fragrances. I do think it would be a little strange to assume that this would work for October or November. So keep that in mind. Tranquil Mist by Yankee Candle. Let us continue. Third candle on the list is going to be called Sun-Kissed Thistle. Thistle is a very unique looking flowering plant that's been used for medicinal and culinary purposes all over the world for thousands of years. You're probably familiar with the health benefits of milk thistle. But what's interesting is the French term for thistle is chardon, which arguably is how the grape Chardonnay got its name. Thistle, Chardonnay, who would have known? I didn't. Does this smell like Chardonnay? Well, let's find out. Sun-Kissed Thistle. Really fruity and tart from the get-go. I'm getting lime juice and lime zest, nectarine. There's also like freshly sliced ginger, a little bit of that spicy, refreshing ginger, and adding to that lemongrass. This is starting to smell like ingredients for like an Asian cuisine dish. Really, really refreshing. So citrusy that I almost want to go on a limb and say a bergamot. Again, the juice and the zest, but that bergamot gives it a little bit of this cologne perfume spin to it. This is creamy, like a very milky tea with maybe even like a dollop of honey. But it has this resinous, very sweet and citrusy pine sap. So it gives it a little bit of that woodiness too. So with the bergamot, with that pine, with that resin, with that woodiness, and all of those other fruit notes, this is walking that line of perfume. This would be a very nice perfume. In fact, it probably could even pass as a cologne. However, conceptually, I'm a little bit lost. I'm not overly familiar with the smell of different varieties of thistle. Some interesting choices in here. It smells really pretty. Like I said, I like it, but be forewarned going into it that it's taking, in my opinion, a lot of liberties as far as the name compared to the way it smells. And I have to say it once again, third one in a row, this one is diverging from the typical autumn fragrance. That's not a problem at all, especially because I know some of the candles coming up are going to be very, very what we expect when it comes to autumn. Yankee Candle doesn't provide any fragrance notes on this candle, and I'm not surprised based on my experience smelling it, but they do have a written description, and it reads, "Perfect fall centerpiece. A warm scent of sharp citrus, apple, and fir needle." Well, that sounds close enough to what I experienced. Sun-kissed thistle. Give it a smell at your local Yankee Candle, and in the comments below, tell me what you think. Is there anything I missed? Conceptually, is there a piece of the puzzle that I'm missing that you found where maybe this does make a little bit more sense than I'm making it sound? But for now, let us continue to the fourth candle. That one being sugared cinnamon apple. Take a close look at that label. You never want to miss any detail. What is that? The sprinkled cinnamon sugar on top. It could be cinnamon sugar. It could be maple sugar. You never know. You never know. But again, sugared cinnamon apple. This is the one that I was really anticipating, based solely on the name, because of the classic, famous, fan favorite, very successful Yankee Candle's sugared apple. So many people are in love with that candle. I include myself in that group of people, and I was so curious to see if this was going to be like an autumn twist on that fragrance. If they were going to take that sugared apple and throw a little bit of October into the candle, you know what I mean? So, is that what this is? Well, we have to find out, and to find out, we need to give it a sniff. So let us do that, shall we? That is enormous. That is pumpkin pie spice, apple pie spice together. So cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, allspice, and ginger, and maybe some additional spices as well. But at the forefront is a finely sifted, ground, spicy cinnamon. This smells like an atomic fireball candy. This has got some heat to it. Underneath that, and to soften things up, we have some vanilla. Again, maybe that vanilla extract that we saw on the poached pear flambe. And there are layers of apple aromas here. This smells like a fresh Macintosh apple, freshly picked, big bites, but it also has that oxidized quality as well that I mentioned before on the poached pear flambe, like the apple pie filling, or even apple juice, Mott's apple juice. And if you're thinking, does this smell like a spiced apple cider? You better believe it. It definitely does. And you know what that reminds me of, right? Salem, Massachusetts. So to me, this is old school Yankee Candle, very reminiscent. When I was younger and you were walking through the gallery and you would pass the Yankee Candle storefront and you would get those huge wafts of aroma. That's what this is. You know, you just get that intensity of the baking spices. Every year for autumn, you have to have that big, bombastic baking spice explosion. Last year, it was the sugared pumpkin swirl. This year, it's the sugared cinnamon apple. If you are of that old school Yankee Candle of high intensity, this is one you're gonna wanna check out, and you're gonna be able to smell it from a far distance. Sugared cinnamon apple. But how does Yankee Candle describe this fragrance? Well, let's find out. Scrumptious cinnamon apple with a taste of whipped vanilla frosting. Apple slices as a top note. Mid notes of cinnamon cider and sugar. Base note of French vanilla, nutmeg, and crushed clove. So that concludes the 4 fragrances for the 2008 fall preview, but I have 2 bonus fragrances, so let's get to it. Candle number 5.